Well, hi there, it's Jackie again. How are you? I have just come back from shopping. Check these out. Have you seen them? So these are from a current promotion that one of the supermarkets here in Australia is doing, Coles Supermarket. And these are called mini collectibles. And for every $30 that you spend at Coles store, you're entitled to one of these little packets, which is actually a little collectible. And from what I hear, and I've done a little bit of research, from what I hear, people are going nuts over these things. So people are collecting them, people are deliberately shopping at Coles just so that they can collect them. People are buying or managing to get their hands on the whole series and then selling them on eBay for like $1 squillion. So that's all cool. So I've just come from Coles. I had to duck in there and do some grocery shopping, and I came home with quite a few. The thing is, you don't know what they're going to be from the outside because it doesn't tell you. And ta-da-ta-da, in here is a little booklet that shows you all the ones that you can collect, and they are like little life-size replicas of some of the cool things that you can buy in stores from all the major brands. And then on the front there, it shows you how you can also additionally buy separately that little shopping cart and a few little items that sort of then makes the whole store complete, right? So people were going nuts for these. This one that I got is Mount Franklin Pure Spring Water. Check that out. Cute, hey? Now, I actually have been a fan of really cute things over the years. In fact, I've been known for many, many Christmases, multiple little things and then put it in a basket or something like that, or I will wrap multiple little things up and then stick them in a bigger package and wrap that up and make people work really hard to open their presents. I've done that. So I have been a lover of little things. And I remember my mum had a miniature tea set when she was growing up, like a little fine china one. And I absolutely loved it. So these are there, but I didn't deliberately go shopping at Coles just to get these, right? It was the closest one to me. I was going from point A to point B doing something else, and I knew I needed stuff for the weekend, and so I thought I'd just do two things at the same time, save me coming out again. So I thought, well, I'll pop into Coles, and it wasn't until I was in there that I realised that I would get these. Look at that, Lipton tea. So why am I talking about these? Because do you know the reason why they're doing these? Such a great promotion, right? Because it's little, it's fun. Majority of people who get these, they're usually getting it for their kids or their grandkids or their nieces or nephews, or for their teachers. They're getting it for their kids in their classroom or something like that, right? So it has this like childlike quality about it. And also they know, Coles knows, that we as human beings have a tendency to like to collect things, right? Especially if it's brand new and shiny and engages your, curiosity and stuff like that. So I won't open any more. I have tons here from today, but I won't open any more because my daughter Abby she's gonna love to unwrap those. So what happened was, a few weeks ago, I would probably say about a month ago, I was in another shopping centre and was going through a different supermarket called Woolworths Supermarket. And as I'm going through, I usually like to just have a bit of a conversation with the person who is doing the groceries for me and have a bit of a chat to them. And on this particular day, it was a lady, and I think it was on a Saturday morning again, and so it was really busy. And recently, there had been a change in our state, in Queensland, where we've gone from not using any single-use plastics bags anymore, because we have a significant issue going on in the environment where it really is a big deal, and we need to grow up and contribute more to the planet in ways that we can, and that was one way that we can. And so as I'm going through the checkout, I said to this lady something to the effect of, how's it going for you with everyone changing over to the recycling bags? Because I bought my recycling bags. And as I asked her this question, and I'd hand over my bags and she was putting everything in my bag, she started crying. She just sort of was looking down and putting things through, and she started crying. And I realized in that moment that it triggered her, and I knew that she had a really hard time. And I said to her, because I'd heard in the media that in other places that checkout people were getting abused. People in supermarkets were getting abused by adults for having to bring your own bags. And when I saw her crying, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's really had a tough time. And then I just imagine what she must have gone through, sitting there in that one spot for probably 6 or 7 hours at a time, and being put in that position. And I said to her, are you okay? What's happened? And she said, it's been bad. She said, it's been so bad. She said, I've never been abused like this before, ever in my life. And she said, I wasn't even here for the first few days that when the switchover happened. So she said, I haven't even copped the worst of it like my other colleagues have. She said, I was away on holidays when it first happened. And I said, I'm so sorry that was your experience. And she said, yeah, it wasn't even my decision. She said, people forget that this is a government-made decision. The government made a decision for the whole state that the state of Queensland would become a state that no longer uses single-use plastic bags. And she said, even though I would say to people, I didn't make this decision, Woolworths didn't make this decision, the state made the decision, the government made the decision. She said people would abuse her, swear at her, call her really nasty names, get in her face, point at her face. And she said to me, I spent 3 years on the customer complaints hotline, and she said I couldn't take it anymore. So I moved off the phones and I moved onto the registers because I had this idea that it was going to be a nicer atmosphere for me. And here she was crying, and I thought, that's so appalling. Like, as human beings, you have lost perspective in life. If you think, it's acceptable to harm another human being like that, or project yourself onto another human being like that. But also, if you place so much energy into something so small as getting a collection of some reusable bags together, leaving them in your car, and then walking them in with you. The reason why I'm talking about this is that when I went into Coles today, and I'm sitting in the checkout line, and I'm going through, there was a lady in front of me, and I'd put everything up on the conveyor belt, and I was waiting for it to go through. And I was listening to the conversation between the lady who was the customer and the lady who was doing the groceries at the checkout. And I heard her say to the lady, are you collecting the mini collectibles? And the lady said to me, no, doll, I don't need them. And the checkout lady says to the customer, oh, maybe I give yours to her. And the lady said, oh, yes, you can have mine. So then it was agreed that I would get hers, which was nice. Thanks, Coles. Don't go back and, you know, punish her for that, by the way. So as she went through, I got hers, which I think was about 4 of these, which was pretty cool. And then as I'm going through, the lady behind me says, if you want to hang around and just wait, then, you know, you can have mine. And I said, oh, that's such a nice thing. Thank you. I said, I really appreciate that. I said, oh my gosh, Abby will be ecstatic to get all these because she'll have even more now. So I went through, and even as I'm going through, the checkout lady said, now you wait there because you're getting the mini collectibles off this lady. So everyone was just like looking out for one another. And that is just, that's a huge thing for me in life. That's a massive, it's one of my philosophies. It's a value that I hold incredibly dearly to me. It helps me really clearly define the situations that I want in my life, but also the people that I want in my life. If you are not willing to stick together and work together and help each other out and have each other's back, then you just don't fit into my spectrum. That's just the way it is. So that was incredibly heartwarming to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, after weeks and weeks and weeks of people being at one another and abusing one another, and with a lot of the things going on further far and wide that are pretty nasty and full on, it was just a really nice thing to see. And I thought, I'm going to speak louder about these tiny little things that seem probably insignificant to other people, but really resemble the type of world that we want to be living in, a world where we support one another and we look out for one another and we do nice things for one another, regardless of whether you know the person or not, and that we speak to each other as though we're neighbours and as though we're friends, not anything less. The other component to this, which is why I want to talk to you, my cat Bailey is on the prowl, and so she's walking around behind all the monitors. We need to remember why Coles is doing this. So here we had a situation here in Queensland, Australia, where we had adults being absolute children. Actually, children do a better job at being children. We had adults abusing one another, adults being violent towards one another, adults being disrespectful, profoundly disrespectful to other human beings for just doing their job. And so Coles, as a company, was sitting there watching this, and it was through the media. It was massive. We have Coles, this company that is looking at this situation that's really dire, and it wasn't dropping either. It was actually escalating. So things were getting out of control. On the news and current affairs programs, they were actually starting to talk about, do we need security in our stores? You know, what's going on with people? Like, it really was a serious situation that got out of control. We had staff members needing to go on stress leave. We had staff members not wanting to go to work. In fact, some people were just not calling in and not turning up to work. We had some people where, you know, it ignites underlying conditions that they've got in them, such as autoimmune stuff, such as PTSD, such as depression. You don't know what's going on for that person that's getting abused, right? So for some people, it doesn't take much at all for that to be the thing that triggers them into their depression or their anxiety or whatever else it is, right, that's going on. So Coles, as a company, actually looked at the situation that was going on and said, we need to do something major to divert everyone's attention to what's going on. And so then they look at what adults are doing. So Coles said, we need something that's going to distract them like you would a child. If a child's having a tantrum, one of the things that people will do, it's not my go-to, but one of the things that you get taught is to distract the child. Child's having a tantrum and you go, oh my gosh, look at the tiny little cute thing, or look at the lolly, or look at the animal, or look at the pretty clouds in the sky, or whatever. So then they're using diversional therapy on adults to stop adults from being nasty. So this is diversional therapy. This is where Coles has had to go all psychology ninja on everyone and say, how can we distract people from being nasty and mean to one another? Let's bring out little mini shoppers. And then that way, adults will go, oh, they're so cute. I'll get them for my kids. And it calms everyone down. And as I was thinking about this on the trip back home, I was thinking about the deeper meaning to this. So you've got to realise that regardless of whether you're a person that had an emotional overreaction to this personally yourself, or whether you've been one of the people that's watched this happen and wondered, what on earth is going on? Why are people doing this? You've got to know it's got nothing to do about the bags. It's got nothing to do with the bag. It's got nothing to do about having to get your own bags and, just reprogram yourself to bring your own bags in. This really is a much deeper issue. And this whole situation is just the trigger or is a catalyst for something much deeper going on. So I was thinking back to all the different situations in which I've treated people over the last 12 years. And basically what we're looking at is an inability to be able to adapt. And there are lots of different reasons why somebody would have this inability to be able to adapt easily, to be able to go with the flow easily, to be able to make changes or incorporate changes into their life easily, right? And there's just off the top of my head, thinking about a couple of different situations of when I've worked with people, these are some of the reasons, right? So say, for example, you've got somebody that is looking at this bag situation and they're being really triggered about it, right? So they get to the supermarket, they see the signs that says we're bag-free single-use store now, you have to buy your own bags, and it triggers them. So there are going to be a whole host of people that have had many different experiences throughout their life that this situation could then be a trigger for, unconsciously, that they don't recognise. An example of that would be perhaps somebody that has an issue with authority. So say, for example, you have somebody who, when they were younger in their household, their dad used to backhand them a lot. They never really had a voice. You were told not to talk out of turn. If you tried to speak out or speak up, you get backhanded over the face or over the head, told to shut up, and you were really suppressed, really controlled. There is a very strong tendency as that person grows up to really have a massive tendency to want to go against being told what to do, to go against someone trying to make you do something, right? Because you're trying to break out of the violence that you're in. You're trying to break out of, still subconsciously, you're trying to break out of that time when you were told what to do or forced to do it or beaten into doing something the way that you were told that you had to do it. So the very simple act of a government making a decision and making all the companies in the state accountable for that decision, and Coles saying, or Woolworths saying, you no longer can get single-use bags off us, is enough to trigger somebody to remember that they were bullied and they were treated with violence and told what to do when they were a kid. And subconsciously it triggers them and said, I will not let you tell me what to do. You cannot tell me what to do. I did not say that this was okay. You don't tell me that I bring in my own bags, right? So then you have this whole other underlying issue that gets triggered just because of that one action, right? What if you have another person and, when they were as a kid or an early teenager, perhaps the parents went through a divorce and dad leaves home and the person's at home with mum. A lot of the time, those people can go through this real identity of being abandoned. You know, dad leaves us, or mum leaves, mum's left us, right? And then if someone dies or you lose connection with a friend, it can start off this whole chain of abandonment, being abandoned and lost. One of the things that generally those people will try and do is have control over their lives and over their surroundings. So they'll be a big one for wanting to control the environment, always wanting to have everything right, on top of everything. They might even be someone who is good at planning things, organising things, making lists, stuff like that. They will be the ones who like to have their life flowing smoothly because it gives them the illusion that they control it, that they are in control with their life. They will be the person who, if things feel like they're getting out of control, they will try to regain control. And the more things get out of control, they'll try to regain control, not realizing that they have zero control over anything at all, right? That's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other episode of From the Table, this illusion of control. But the people who have a high degree of abandonment consciousness or abandonment belief at a deep subconscious level, I was going to say from a psychology perspective, they can be very, very triggered around something like this so easily, right? Because a decision has been made that's out of their control. They get to the supermarket and the lady at the counter says, "Do you have your bags?" And she says, "No." "What bags?" "Never needed bags before." And she says, "Well, you need bags. We don't do single-use plastic bags before." And all of a sudden her control belief is completely triggered. She has no control over this. It wasn't within her plans. The lady is saying, "You can buy bags." Now she has to buy bags. It's not within her budget. Now she can't afford it because now she has to buy 10 bags to put all of her groceries in. Now she's thinking she's going to have to put groceries back because she can't afford it. It spirals out of control. She delivers then her loss of control, her abandonment issues at the checkout person, right? So I could sit here and talk for the next few hours about all the possible situations that could have happened to somebody that comes from their story, their lifetime story, their history, right? That could trigger the reason why that human being projects their stuff. At the end of the day, it's not okay. The more adaptable you are, the more willing you are to recognize the trigger when it comes up. So you're standing in the checkout. The lady says to you, "Have you got your bags?" You go, "No." "What bags?" She says, "We're single-use bags." You go, "Okay, I can recognize that. That pings me off. I'm not too happy about it. I can see them getting frustrated." If you were just to stop, pause, take a breath and go, "That's interesting. That really has triggered me. That's really got on my go. I'm going to look into that after." So right now, I've just got to do this. I've got to be adaptable. I've got to go with the flow. I've got to change to the environment and the circumstances. So then you do that. You get your bags. You either go out to the car and get your bags. You buy new bags. You get your groceries. You get your little mini collectibles. And you pack up your groceries and you go home. And then you look at, why did that bother me so much? Where did that come from? What was I feeling when they told me that? I felt anger. Why did I feel anger? Where does that come from? Find where it sits in your body. Go into that place where it sits in your body. For some people, when they feel anger, it's in their stomach. For some people, it's in their chest. For some people, it'll be in their head. For some people, it'll be in their skin. Their skin will go red hot. For everyone, it's different, and it can show up in multiple places. But then take your awareness to where that anger was in that part of the body and sit there for a moment. So say if anger was in the head, come into the area of where it was in the head, the anger, and go, what was I really angry about? Well, I was angry because they were telling me what to do. Why do I have an issue with being told what to do? Because it reminds me of this teacher that I had at school, and she used to flog me with a, you know, big metal ruler, and she was mean and nasty, and I've hated being told what to do then. So you need to track it back, but you at least need to take some responsibility for what that's all about, right? Or help somebody else take responsibility. Say to them, "Hey, there's something much bigger going on here. This really isn't about the bags," right? The more aware you can become, the more willing you are just to be able to jump into it a little bit, take a little bit of a swim around in it, a little bit of a journey, the easier life's process is going to get for you, and the much more enjoyable life will get for you. I mean, sure, it's cool to have little promos come out where you can buy little mini collectibles for your kids so that they enjoy them. But it's such a shame that a company has to take such exaggerated methods to get humans, adult humans, to actually come down out of a state of rage, anger, and violence by using child psychology so that it stops the behaviour. So anyway, that's a little bit to think about, right? It's not about the bags. It's got nothing about the bags. Our ability to be able to adapt, go with the flow, realise that we have less control than what we think, and just make the best of situations as they come up, and recognise that they are going to come up. They're definitely going to come up. That's a given. And so expect that situations are going to come up, and that you will just know how to deal with it in the moment. You will pause, you will take a nice big deep breath, and you will deal with the situation, and then you will look back at it later when you get home, later that day, the next day, and figure out why it triggered you so much, because you don't want it to trigger you again, and you don't want to be that kind of human being. You really don't. Okay? Awesome. Well, I'm going to go deliver my little mini collectibles to Abby, and thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time in an edition of From the Table. Good to see you all. Goodbye.